Did you know that L'Oreal has partnered with several cultural institutions, including a makeup collection with the Louvre in 2023? Welcome to the Cosmetic Chronicles, the podcast where history meets beauty and tells the amazing stories behind some of the world's most notorious brands. I'm your host, Sarah Carvalho, and I'm a beauty journalist who has been obsessed with makeup since my first swipe of mascara. In this episode, we're covering L'Oreal, a brand that probably doesn't need much of an introduction. It started as a French hair dye company that grew into a multinational, multi-billion personal care corporation. As always, let's start with a little Sarah story. I'm going to say this right at the top, okay? I'm coming in blazing. The L'Oreal Voluminous Mascara is still one of the best, if not the best, mascaras in the entire beauty market, okay? Like I said, I'm coming in hot. Believe me, I've tried a lot of mascaras, but there's just something so perfect about the original Voluminous Mascara. I always have one in my makeup bag. It's reliable. It's like my comfort sweater. And I still remember the exact moment I was in a dance class and my friend in my dance class knew that I loved mascaras. And I remember her coming up to me and saying, "Have you ever tried the L'Oreal Voluminous?" And I said, "No." And she's like, you gotta like put everything else aside and go try it. And I was 16 years old. I went to the drugstore the next day, bought the Voluminous Mascara, and it was all over from there. And we have been it's not a monogamous relationship because obviously I still have other mascaras that I use in rotation and I like to try different ones. I love a tubing mascara. But like I said, I always have my comfort sweater, my L'Oreal Voluminous in my makeup bag. And I just will always buy a new tube because I can rely on it. It's a long love affair. And while I do have a lot of other experiences with L'Oreal products, that mascara is still the one that feels the most special to me personally. We'll obviously talk more about the iconic products later on in the episode, but first, let's go back to the beginning. So right off the top, I'm just going to apologize to our French friends of the pod for my upcoming pronunciation in this episode because it's going to be a tough listen for you and pretty much anyone with ears. And as someone who has French in my blood, I have a Duolingo streak in French. You'd think that there would be some natural ability or some learned ability over the however many days I have in French lessons, but I realized while I was doing this research that I'm maybe worse than I was before, so just apologies in advance. Okay. L'Oreal was originally founded in 1909 by a man named Eugene Schuler, an innovative French chemist and ambitious entrepreneur. Eugene was the son of two Parisian pastry shop owners, and after finishing his baccalaureate, which I think is the equivalent of 2 years of college, he then enrolled at the Institute of Applied Chemistry and graduated first in his class in 1904. He took a job as a lab assistant at the Sorbonne after graduation and seemed to be on a path to become a university researcher. But then one day, the owner of a large barbershop paid a visit to Eugene, looking for help in creating a synthetic hair dye. Now, for context, in the early 20th century, French women were not regularly dyeing their hair, mostly because the toxic dye of the time had a heavy lead content that irritated the scalp. And they didn't say this in the research, but I'm pretty sure irritating the scalp was like the least of your problems, but it was toxic. So Eugene was intrigued by this request and agreed to be a technical advisor to the barber. But then he eventually cut ties and struck out on his own, probably realizing that this was a great idea. And he experimented with hair dyes in a rented lab in Paris, where he eventually invented the first ever synthetic risk-free hair dye for women in 1907. He utilized a chemical called PPD that was discovered in the previous century to make this synthetic hair dye. And the first dye he named L'Oreal, influenced by the current on-trend L'Oreal hairstyle, as it was a play on the word auréole or halo. If I roll a couple R's, maybe it'll just sound like I know what I'm doing. Eugene manufactured this hair dye in his home and sold it to local hair salons. Sales took off, and 2 years later, in 1909, he founded the French company of Inoffensive Hair Dye. I love a straight-to-the-point business name. So from there, Eugene ended up taking his hair dye on the road. By 1920, he was selling his products in 17 countries, ranging from the United States to Russia. That's wild. Following a stint in the French army during World War I, Eugene returned just as Europe was seeing an evolution in women's fashion and hairstyles. And along with that, thousands of new hair salons that needed products to satisfy their clients. So at this time, L'Oreal was well positioned to meet that need with their new innovative products. Eugene's success was powered by his ability to understand the needs and anticipate the expectations of customers. And that's something you'll see throughout the rest of this episode. L'Oreal has always put a lot of money and research into the upcoming trends and what their customers expect. They put a lot of money behind science and research, and that has been the case since day one, basically. L'Oreal revolutionized the market for women's hair dyes, and particularly at this time, that was important because it allowed women greater opportunities for self-expression. So they were starting to express themselves through dyeing their hair and being able to do it with a risk-free formula instead of, putting lead all over their head. And then in 1934, he launched DOP. This is the first modern shampoo without soap. In 1935, Amber Solaire was created as the first tanning oil that contained sun filter. And then in 1939, the company officially became L'Oreal and moved to 14 Rue Royale in Paris.
Meet DOP, the fabulous pearlized shampoo from Paris. DOP, in 4 unique formulas with special beneficial action for greasy, dry, dandruff, or normal hair. DOP, the right shampoo for every kind of hair. Shampoo by L'Oreal.
Their products began to be sold beyond just the hair salons, and new subsidiaries in Italy, Belgium, and Denmark added to the company's growing profile in the late 1930s. L'Oreal introduced its first lipstick line in the 1930s as well, marking its entry into the color cosmetics market. And these lipsticks featured sleek Art Deco-inspired metal tubes, often with a ribbed texture reflecting the elegance of the era. And even World War II couldn't dent L'Oreal's sales as women throughout Europe and elsewhere continued to purchase hair and beauty products to maintain morale on the home front. And so as a result of this, the 1940s saw an expansion into a full makeup range featuring products like mascara and foundation. And in 1945, the company released Oriel, a treatment that created permanent waves without heat. And then continuing on, moving into the 1950s, L'Oreal brought on additional research chemists in its quest for new and better hair products. So at the time, it was popular for female celebrities like a Marilyn Monroe to drive demand for hair lighteners, getting her beautiful, perfect blonde hair. And so L'Oreal responded with a variety of new products that launched in the 1950s. So for example, in 1951, they introduced a product named Immediate D, which was a lightening tint catering to the growing demand for lighter hair shades. In 1952, they launched the Rege Color. This is the first hair dye that could be applied like shampoo, simplifying the entire coloring process. Oof, that's brilliant. In 1955, they released Colorel. This is the first coloring shampoo, which combined shampooing and coloring in one step. Also in the 1950s, L'Oreal started to make gains in the skincare world, starting in 1954 with an arrangement with Vichy, a French skincare manufacturer. And then in the makeup category, they continued their expansion by launching their first liquid foundation. Eugene Schuller ended up dying in 1957 and was replaced as chair and chief executive officer by Francois Dahl, who had actually joined the company at the end of World War II. And during his presidency, during his chiefdom, the company was propelled forward by his keen business mentality. He focused on the commitment to research and innovation, as well as really listening to what consumers wanted from a beauty brand, not just L'Oreal. And then eventually in 1963, L'Oreal went public on the French stock exchange and grew spectacularly from there. Not just because of going public and expanding the brand, but they also began strategic acquisitions of brands like Mixa, Lancôme, Biotherm, and Laboratoires Garnier. Question mark? French people, tell me, am I close? Now, this is a really big moment because they had already been slowly acquiring small brands, but acquiring big name brands was a huge move for them and something that they will continue to do. But this was a big deal at the time because these were trusted names that they were able to add to the L'Oreal brand. And so that helped with some guaranteed customer trust that was built in with these acquisitions, but also allowed them to break into new markets. And Francois, the current CEO at this time, had a driving principle called seize the moment. And that's something they still live by to this day. So this bold and vibrant approach triggered a huge creation of new brands under the L'Oreal group. So along with acquiring brands, they were starting to create a lot of brands. And that includes the Kerastase haircare range, O by Lancôme, and the popular Anais perfume by Cotterell. Other groundbreaking brands also followed, including Garnier's Ultra Dual range, which was based on natural plant products, and Plenitude Revitalift, which was their new facial care range as well. And then jumping ahead to 1984, Francois stepped down as CEO, and a man named Charles Zevaik, a former research chemist, became the CEO. Now, as a research chemist, he understood the scientific research that not only could help create winning products, but also reassured the buying public that L'Oreal was a brand to be trusted. So he decided to, again, continue on that research momentum that they had and hired a top team of managers from around the world who could respond very quickly to regional and international consumer demands and trends, and then be able to create those products based on that research. He also made the company more cohesive by encouraging cooperation between the different brands and divisions. And the result was a 15% profit growth for that decade. This was also a period of massive investment in research. So like I said, Charles Zevaik, the current CEO, really hired a large team of people who could research and understand what people wanted. And that kind of led the charge for who they would acquire, who they would partner with, and what kind of new markets they were going to break into. So, for example, they launched 2 ranges of skincare products for men because they noticed that the male grooming marketplace was rapidly expanding. And those were done under their Biotherm brand. And then they did the same thing with Vichy in 1986. In 1987, they had launched Kerastase, which was a luxury hair care line, which is where they started establishing a dedicated professional hair division. And this is a huge division for them, even to this day. I did read their 2024 financial report, and I'm fairly certain their number 1 selling products were under their professional division category, which would include this Kerastase. And also in 1984, L'Oreal acquired the license for the American perfume Ralph Lauren. So that was helping them lead into the perfume category as well. And let's not forget about makeup. This was a huge decade for their boost in the makeup line, prominently featuring their top spokesmodel, supermodel Andie MacDowell. Their makeup products were all about embracing the bold beauty of the 1980s. So some of these products included their Creme Rich lipstick. This was a luxurious lipstick line that offered rich color and a creamy texture, reflecting the bold lip trends in the 1980s. This is still a bestseller for them to this day. It also included the L'Oreal Eyeshadow Quartet. So that was a compact that featured 4 coordinated eyeshadow shades. We all know what a quartet is. And the 80s also saw the L'Oreal Nail Color. So this was a range of nail polishes, obviously available in various shades, and really complemented the vibrant fashion of the era. So in the late 80s, specifically 1988, a man named Lindsay Owen Jones, who had originally joined L'Oreal in 1969, became the chair and CEO, leading the company for the next 2 decades. And under Lindsay Owen Jones's presidency, L'Oreal became the world leader in cosmetics. Further strategic acquisitions helped to extend its portfolio to also include Helena Rubinstein, the license for Giorgio Armani perfumes, La Roche-Posay, Maybelline, Kiehl's, and SkinCeuticals.
chips me off, when my bank card rejects me. Oh, and my pantyhose won't go all the way up. And I'm not a cranky person, except when my nails get chipped, then I really get chipped off. So I use L'Oreal 10-day formula. With a little care, I can go 10 days with hardly a chip. So why do I get chipped off? That's when I can't find L'Oreal.
10-day formula nail enamel from L'Oreal.
By the late 1990s, L'Oreal was consistently among the top 3 global beauty companies, but its absolute dominance became more apparent in the 2000s. So, starting in 1994, they launched their True Match Super Blendable Foundation. You may have heard of this. This was a groundbreaking innovation that introduced shade matching technology based on warm, cool, and neutral undertones. So, it offered more personalized foundation choices than most competitors at the time and at an affordable price. In 1996, L'Oreal acquired Maybelline, expanding its presence in the mass market cosmetic space. And that same year, they also saw the release of the Voluminous Mascara. It was a mascara designed specifically to add volume to lashes without clumping and becoming a staple in many makeup routines. Yes, yes. Other notable releases during this time in the late 90s were the Jet Set Nail Colors, which was a fast-drying nail polish line designed for, women on the go, and also a revamped Color Riche lipstick line. So already known for its rich color payoff, but now with a little bit more of a moisturizing formula. And then as the new millennium turned, the brand also introduced Garnier Fructis. Ooh, that should ring some bells with some millennials. Garnier Fructis was a line of hair care products known for its fruit-based formulas. Also, if you're not familiar with it, it is the green bottles at your local CVS. In 2006, Jean-Paul Agon took over as CEO, overseeing significant global expansion and digital transformation from that point on. This included launching iNoa in 2009. This was their first ammonia-free permanent hair color, setting a new standard in hair coloring. And another big move that he made was purchasing Urban Decay in 2012. So this marked a significant move into the more high impact, higher end makeup market. And then other major products that were launched in the early to mid 2000s that kind of helped solidify L'Oreal, particularly at the drugstore, was the Infallible Pro Last waterproof pencil eyeliner. And their Infallible line itself, I think, is still one of their top sellers, but this waterproof pencil eyeliner was a big hit for them. Also, along with the True Match foundation was the True Match blush, so this was designed to complement various skin tones. The Color Riche lip liner, so this was to match the lipstick line, and now you had a nice little lip liner if you wanted to match. And with the True Match foundation, they had a major shade expansion in 2012. So they added 33 shades, further improving inclusivity and range for different skin tones. And it was also reformulated to enhance coverage and wearability. In 2021, Nicolas Hieronimus succeeded Jean-Paul Agon as CEO, and that same year, L'Oreal was actually recognized by the United Nations as a Global Impact Lead Company for the 7th consecutive year. And for the 12th time, L'Oreal was also named one of the most ethical companies in the world by the Ethisphere Institute. Not bad, L'Oreal. And last few little bits as we get into recent day L'Oreal. In 2022, La Roche-Posay reopened its historic spa center in France, providing dermatological treatments for patients. And La Roche-Posay's new identity embraced the concept of wellness and mindful treatment combined with the cutting edge of science and technology. In 2023, L'Oreal ended up acquiring the Aesop brand. And in that same year, L'Oreal's historic headquarters inaugurated La Visionnaire, Espace François Dalle, which was a 4,000 square meter space dedicated to research into the future of beauty. And they also had another True Match Foundation rebirth in 2023. This time they expanded the shade range to 47 shades and created a new, more hydrating formula with an updated glass bottle design. And as of 2024, L'Oreal reported an operating profit of 8.69 billion euros, or roughly 10.22 billion US dollars, reflecting a 6.7 increase from the previous year. And the company's revenue for 2024 was around 43.48 billion euros, or roughly 51 billion US dollars, marking a 5.1% increase from 2023. So to put it short and frank, they made billions and it's increasing. Thanks for coming to this economics class. And lastly, here's a quote from their website about the future of the brand. Quote, "As the legacy continues, L'Oreal's ambition is to invent the beauty of the future through research and innovation. Beauty tech, green science, biotech, and artificial intelligence are all ways of broadening the scope of what is possible, putting science to work for people." End quote.
I use the most expensive hair color in the world, preferenced by L'Oreal. It's not that I care about money, it's that I care about my hair. It's not just the color. I expect great color. What's worth more to me is the way my hair feels. Smooth and silky, but with body. It feels good against my neck. Actually, I don't mind spending more for L'Oreal because I'm worth it.
So for this rabbit hole of the week, it's a little smaller than regular, but there's just so much information about L'Oreal that I was a little overwhelmed. So I didn't, my brain was going in a million different directions, but I wanted to just focus on two things that I came across in my research: their famous tagline and their work with museums. So if you're new to this podcast, the rabbit hole of the week is something that always happens organically, but it's never really planned. I guess at this point it's like subconsciously planned, but I never know what it's going to be. So during my research process, I tend to come across something, I get very curious about it, and then I just end up down a rabbit hole. So that's what we're doing here, is we're talking about two kind of mini rabbit holes. The first is their famous tagline, "Because I'm worth it." So I actually saw this piece on L'Oreal's own website. They have kind of a manifesto section, and they talked about this tagline and why it's important. And I actually want to read directly from the site because I think it hits more on the importance of the tagline than just something that happens to be catchy. So again, this is from their site. The iconic L'Oreal Paris tagline, "Because I'm worth it," was first coined in 1971 by a 23-year-old copywriter working for McCann Agency, Eon Specht. Her tagline represented a revolutionary shift in advertising. At a time when campaigns often focused on external validation or male approval, this simple yet profound statement asserted the woman's inherent worth, signaling a transformative move from seeking acceptance to embracing self-value. It was initially crafted for L'Oreal's preference hair color, but its immediate impact extended far beyond a single product, fundamentally changing how beauty was marketed. The true innovation of "Because I'm Worth It" lies in its pioneering message of women's empowerment and self-confidence. It was the first advertising message to directly celebrate a woman's self-worth and personal value, reframing the act of purchasing beauty products as an act of self-affirmation. This powerful direct address challenged the male-dominated advertising landscape of the era, giving women a voice that resonated deeply. It became more than just a slogan. It was a testament to independence and confidence, asserting that women deserved to invest in themselves simply because they were worth it. And it turns out that tagline has been translated into 40 different languages, and it has since changed a little bit. They started making it "Because you're worth it," "Because we're worth it," to embrace wider inclusivity. And it is one of those things where it doesn't seem like it would have been a big deal at for us maybe years after, but at the time it was a big deal. Buying beauty products not for anyone else other than you and because you're worth it was a kind of a mind-blowing concept. And I love that that's something that they still really stand by. And when it comes to their collaborations with different institutions or different kind of art worlds, I really want to talk about how Lancôme partnered with the Louvre in 2023. They created a fall beauty collection that I am absolutely furious I missed. Well, to be fair, I do remember Lisa Eldridge, my forever icon idol, showed it on her socials, and I remember going, "Oh my God," and then I proceeded to forget all about it because that's the way our brains work these days. But I should have known better because Lisa, who, if you don't know who she is, pause the podcast, just go look her up. She's amazing. She's an incredible makeup artist. And she also has her own beauty line and has just such innovative products. She's just a very innovative beauty cosmetic creator, but she is also the global creative director of Lancome. So that to me explains the genius artistry behind this collaboration. Whether she had anything to do with it or not, I don't know. I'm assuming she did. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I know she's the global creative director of Lancome, so I feel like this had to go through her at some point. But anyway, the Louvre limited edition collection featured 4 shades of the God. Oh, there's so much French in this episode. I'm so sorry. Okay. Featured 4 shades of the l'Absolu Rouge matte lipsticks, a new take on the iconic bottle of their advanced Genifique serum, and a 5-pan Richelieu wing face and eyeshadow palette. Each of the products wrapped in imagery of a classic piece from Paris's world-famous museum. So, for example, they had a celestial rose lipstick that featured a depiction of the sculpture La Nymphe Echo that was printed on its cap. So I will post the link to the Harper's Bazaar article where you can see photos of some of these products because they sadly aren't available anymore, but it's stunning. It's one of those products that I would just want to own and never use. And I'm really sad that I didn't get a chance to try it or just own it in my hands. So the Louvre president director, Laurence Descartes, said the following about the collaboration, quote, "I am delighted by this debut collaboration with Lancome, which highlights with incredible talent the diversity of forms of beauty found in the Louvre collections, a dialogue between cultures and civilizations that transcends time and geography." And then the following year, so 2024, last year, the Louvre and the L'Oreal Group as a whole announced a 3-year partnership where they actually created a bespoke tour of the museum, tracing the evolution of beauty through a variety of works. So this is accompanied by a web app called De Toutes Beautés, of all beauties. So 3 core themes actually guided the selection of the 108 artworks that are featured in the tour. So the first core theme is ritual, objects, and beauty practice. The second theme is canons or idealized visions of beauty. And the third theme is what questions of appearance and beauty reveal about society and their transformations. And here's another quote from the Louvre president, Laurence Descartes, about this partnership. Quote, "Together we have designed a journey that highlights the vast diversity of beauty across eras and cultures. Through this playful and accessible approach to the works, the Louvre affirms its role more than ever as a school of the gaze, offering multiple pathways of discovery to share its heritage more broadly and generously." End quote. Nicholas Aeronomus, the CEO of the L'Oreal Group, added, quote, "At the heart of our mission, in the idea of creating beauty that drives the world forward, lies the desire to democratize and tell the story of beauty, its plurality, and its role since the dawn of humanity. This is the compass that guides our patronage and leads us to seek new paths and new perspectives. In this regard, the Louvre naturally stands out, both for the richness and diversity of its collections and in its ability to shed light on the most contemporary questions." End quote.
There's a story behind my skin. It's a mosaic of all the faces before it. My only makeup, True Match.
Only True Match has L'Oreal's technology to match your skin's unique tone and undertone. Not just from light to dark, but warm to neutral to cool. With 33 innovative shades, more than anyone else. So your perfect match, 100% guaranteed.
It's my skin, my story, my true match.
The one and only True Match from L'Oreal.
I'm with it.
All right, let's quickly run through the icons, shall we? So I actually wanted to point this one out, the L'Oreal Elnet Satin Hairspray. So this was originally launched in 1960, and it's still known as the gold standard of hairsprays. It's famous for its ultra-fine mist, strong hold, and brushable finish, and it's been a backstage essential at runway shows and on Hollywood sets for decades. So let's definitely give that one a little bit of a shout out. We didn't talk about hairspray that much here, or at all, but this one deserves a little love. And then, of course, the Preference hair color launched in 1973, and this revolutionized the at-home hair dye with fade-defying technology specifically. And it became famous with that long-running tagline, "Because I'm worth it," that started with this particular campaign. And it helped cement L'Oreal as the leader in consumer hair color and being able to dye your hair at home with very high-quality products. And then, of course, my baby, my L'Oreal Voluminous Mascara, one of the most popular mascaras ever, and continues to be a staple in both people's makeup bags and pro artist kits. Now, if you go over to my Instagram, Glow and Flow by Sarah, the link is also in the show notes. I'm going to do a reel that just shows you why I love this mascara so much. So you're going to get up close and personal, right up to my eye, right up to my eyeball, and you're going to watch this mascara do its magic. So definitely come over and give that a whirl, and then you'll see why L'Oreal Voluminous is the best. And of course, another iconic product, their True Match Foundation, originally launched in 1994, and it was that groundbreaking technology that helped you match based on your undertone. So this was a really groundbreaking technology. Not that other brands hadn't been focusing on undertone before, but I would say, at least from what I know and what I've covered at least so far on this podcast, is it was hard to find drugstore foundations that would vary enough in undertone. It was hard enough to even get shades, let alone having enough undertone options. And so I do think they led the way in having more inclusivity at the drugstore, and not just with the actual shades, but with the undertones as well. And they've expanded the shade range, like I said, over the years, becoming one of the most inclusive mass market foundations. And it's often praised for its natural skin-like finish. I feel like I had a bottle of this in college, and if I remember correctly, it was very skin-like. Cool story, Sarah. Okay, and lastly, another product I want to talk about is the Revitalift skincare. So this is originally launched in the late 1990s. It was one of the first affordable anti-aging lines to use pro-retinol A and then later hyaluronic acid. And it became a bestseller, and it still is, in the global skincare market, bridging that science and accessibility that they like to bring to people. And it also helped L'Oreal dominate the anti-aging segment in the mass market beauty space. And a few honorable mentions, the Creme Gloss, which is a gentle ammonia-free hair color, and of course the Color Riche lipstick. Like I said, it came out in the 1980s with a couple reformulations, but it is still a bestseller. And we're going to end the podcast with a couple fun facts. So in 2020, the Makeup Museum, in partnership with L'Oreal USA, announced the publication of its first book called Beauty Stories from Around the World. And the point of this book was to help expand beauty history to actually include diverse perspectives and narratives and images. And so instead of just kind of relying on the typical beauty history that we read about, the ancient Egypt, the Renaissance, they wanted to make sure the stories were told about the important beauty rituals of Black, Indigenous, and people of color as well. So that was in partnership with L'Oreal. And lastly, much of L'Oreal's commercial success can be attributed to its many mergers and acquisitions over the decades, right? So I went to go find all the brands that L'Oreal owns, and they have so many that they've actually created 4 different divisions. So they have the L'Oreal Luxe, the consumer products, dermatological beauty, and the professional products. The L'Oreal Luxe division is the largest of the 4, and here are just some of the brands that are in that division. Lancome, Yves Saint Laurent, Armani, Valentino, Prada, Ralph Lauren, Aesop, It Cosmetics, Urban Decay, Kiehl's, Youth to the People, and Shu Uemura. Under consumer products, they have L'Oreal Paris, Maybelline, NYX, Essie, and Garnier. Under the dermatological division, they have La Roche-Posay, Vichy, CeraVe, SkinCeuticals, and Skin Better Science. And in the professional products division, they have Kerastase, Redken, Pureology, and Matrix. So yeah, L'Oreal owns a huge chunk of the market, and they are continuing to innovate, to create new beauty technology. They are joining forces with different cultural institutions to help expand people's thought process around beauty and history and art and all of that. So I just think they're a very interesting growth pattern. And I think continuing these different collaborations with places like Makeup Museum or the Louvre, or just having these different relationships is really important, because they're creating these really cool experiences for people to not only think differently about beauty, but see the history behind beauty, understand that it has gone through all these different life cycles, and society has looked at beauty differently throughout time. And it's I don't know, I just think it's really cool when a company that's been around for a long time, that owns everyone, is still thinking of ways to be innovative, and not just in the products they create, but in how they share those products and what they've learned with consumers. So we'll end today's episode with a quote from the L'Oreal Group about their original founder, Eugene Schuler. Schuler was a man of action and a creative spirit. He was the first to build a beauty industry on a bedrock of science. For half a century, he laid the groundwork for a company that would offer unparalleled quality and safety innovations to meet the full range of beauty needs and trends. That credo holds true today. L'Oreal has gone from strength for more than 110 years and continues to cement its position as the global leader in the beauty industry. So those were the Chronicles of L'Oreal. What do you think of the brand? Let me know your thoughts. Do you have a favorite product? Are you going to go out and buy Voluminous? Have I sold it to you just yet? But let me know what you think, and what you think about their collaborations with different art institutions. If you think that's a cool idea, leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts. And feel free to also share some of the brands that you'd like to see covered on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time on the Cosmetic Chronicles.